Hello, Danvers, and welcome to Lead On. My name is Gayla Bartlett, and today is our show where we meet with community leaders that are doing exciting things in our community. Today, I'm excited to have with me Kelsey Tam. She's the area director from Salem's Children's Friends and Family Services. So thank you so much for coming, Kelsey.
Thank you for having me.
We are very excited. So September is Suicide Awareness Month.
It is.
So counseling and therapy is such an important part of our culture and our climate. I thought it was fitting to have you guys in today to tell us a little bit about what you offer and what your programs are structured like.
Yeah, so Children's Friend and Family Services, we've been around for a very long time. We were founded in 1837.
Wow.
And yeah, we're at 187 years, I believe.
That's amazing.
It is. It's very much sort of like your classic, like, grassroots, like from the bottom up, like social work program agency, which I really love as a social worker. And we offer a variety of services, and we started by supporting women and families of men that were like lost at sea. And so other women like whose husbands were like sea captains, they would sew clothes or cook food for families that had lost family members. And from that time, we have just sort of like expanded, where for a period of time we were a school. We facilitated adoptions. And then we've also, I'd say in the last 30 plus years, really focused on mental health and children's mental health. And so Children's Friend, we are a part of the larger Justice Resource Institute, but we have several like satellite offices up here on the North Shore. And so in Salem, we offer your classic like outpatient therapy services, which is meeting with somebody one-to-one for about an hour a week. We can meet with them in the office. We can meet with them in the school. If people don't have transportation, we'll go to their homes. We also offer something called CBHI services. That's the Children's Behavioral Health Initiative. So that has intensive in-home family therapy, where we're working with youth under the age of 21 and their family that lives in their home or their natural supports, to ensure that they develop skills so that they can create change and sustainability and be successful across different areas like home, school, the community. We also offer therapeutic mentoring. That's like the fun service where we're still working with the same youth under the age of 21, but we're taking them out into the community and we're working on various skills in the actual area that they live in, where they can, you know, maybe they are working towards getting their license, so we're helping them apply for driver's ed, or maybe they're interested in getting a job, so we're helping them create their resume and walking them through the steps of like what that application process looks like. Or for littles, maybe we're taking them to parks and working on like social skills, communication skills. And all of these services involve like connecting with parents, which is so crucial, because that's really where change lies. Is you can ask the kiddo to do something, but they have to have it consistently modeled for them.
Right.
We also offer various groups in our site. So Salem has the privilege of like owning our building, which means we have a yard space.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that because I got to take a tour, and the facility is gorgeous.
Thank you.
The space is great, and I wanted to talk to you about that the yard space and the therapy there. So that is amazing.
Yeah, we offer a variety of modalities, which I think is really unique to, like, we are fitting what the person needs. This is not a one-size-fit-all. Therapy never is that way. And so by having the opportunity to engage in different ways, we can like elicit different types of change. And so, for example, in our yard space, something that we really focus on is called horticultural therapy. And it's a nice parallel where we have a garden space, so every spring we are prepping the garden beds, we're planting seeds, we're watching things grow. We have some flowers, herbs, vegetables, we did some fruits. And so it's nice to be using this modality because you're teaching someone to plant the seed and nurture it, watch it grow. And then I think the best part is that the kids and the families that we serve, they get to take this fruit, this vegetable, the herbs home with them. So they also have access to food that perhaps they wouldn't normally have. As we know, food insecurity is a very real problem, and a lot of the families that we work with struggle. And so it's nice to be able to offer them something fresh and nutritious. And our executive director and vice president, Stephanie Sladen, she's recently become very interested in nutritional psychology, which talks a lot about different types of food that you can eat that will support decreasing anxiety or depression. And so to be able to use the garden space that way too is really awesome. Other types of services or like modalities that we do, all of our clinicians are trauma informed. I would say, especially now in the climate that we live in, post-pandemic, which was a collective trauma for everybody, being able to work with clients through a trauma lens and understand that perhaps some of the behaviors that we observe or the choices that they're making, they're not making those choices because they're bad people or bad kids. They're making poor choices because they've learned to get their needs met in a maladaptive way. And so we support them in creating new skills that will help them be more successful in getting their needs met. So sometimes that looks like we're working with kids doing something called trauma-informed therapy and trauma-focused CBT specifically. We also support clients who are struggling with substance use. We support parents that are struggling being parents or like grandparents raising kids. There's a lot of kids in foster care. And so we really try to tailor the different types of services that we offer to the need of the family.
And I think what's important too about what you guys do and you offer is that there's different ways that people refer to you. There's the crisis center when you have a child who may be cutting and could be suicidal. You get them that way. There are different ways to get them until they can get into a psychiatric center. Sometimes they'll come there as an interim before they can get into that center, because we know that when a child goes into the emergency room, the wait for a hospital bed in one of those facilities can be days, weeks, months, depending on what's available. So having your facility there and those services is huge.
Yeah. I mean, the boarding crisis in Massachusetts for kids that need higher levels of care was pretty significant and continues to be, but particularly during the pandemic, where like we've never had to function this way. Kids are isolated and parents are isolated, and who do you reach out to for help? And so when kids are experiencing suicidal ideation or engaging in self-harm, we are going to encourage them to go to the hospital or to what we now call the local community-based health center through Elliott, and that's where they can get an emergency like psych evaluation to determine, can you go home and be safe and we make referrals for these other services, or do you need to go into an inpatient level of care? And in the interim, a lot of times we provide what's called like an urgent outpatient. So somebody, if they're having some significant depression or anxiety or even thoughts of self-harm but don't plan to act on it, they can come to our office and request an urgent outpatient referral, and they can be seen within 72 hours.
That's huge.
And then they're followed by a clinician for a period of time until we can assign a longer-term clinician to them. We also, during the pandemic, the groups that we run for the kids, like we have a horticultural therapy group, we have a Dungeons and Dragons group, which is really cool for, your adolescent boys, your latency age boys, and girls. We have a few girls that are in those groups. But those groups were developed to help create connection and almost be like a diversion option instead of having to go to a higher level of care, like engaging in group therapy while also waiting for other services. And it's proven to be very successful. We've had these groups consistently running now for about 2.5, 3 years, and we're expanding the types of groups that we offer, such as like mindfulness. We're doing like an ADHD adult support group because there's no handbook on like who do you go talk to these things about. And so being able to access these services a little bit more quickly will ultimately have better long-term outcomes.
That's wonderful. Yeah. And I think also it's so important that, you know, you're out there. I know that you support Mental Makeover and Emily and her whole crew. And then the Mental Makeover boxes, some of them are actually in your facility.
Yeah, so we have worked with Mental Makeover now for probably about 2 years, and we supported them. So we met them after they created their first box, which was geared towards, you know, younger kids. But their second box, the World Needs You Here box, which they also do their annual walk every July, we supported them in creating not the activities that are in there, but how to talk about and frame what the activities are meant for. And so we have some of those boxes readily available in our site. They also have boxes in the Family Resource Center, which we do the clinical oversight for. So we have a clinician and a family partner that sit in this program that lives in Shetland Park. And what's really wonderful about the Family Resource Center is that it's not insurance-based. It's not, you don't need something to access those services. Whereas for Children's Friend and for any community-based mental health agency, you have to have insurance and that's hard to navigate. And so Mental Makeover and the Family Resource Center and us, like, we have been able to utilize those boxes in short-term care when kids need something, and it's tangible, right? You can talk about coping skills, you can talk about doing X, Y, or Z, but in a moment of crisis, you're not thinking about that. And so to have this box right in front of you that you can pull from and read something and like help ground yourself, it's so valuable.
And I think that's great. You know, we talk about the community and we talk about resources, and to see the community groups work together like that so that your organization is established, it's been there for years, and to help a nonprofit that's just on its way up and blooming. And I just think that's great. And that really shows that community base and that community love, which we all need so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's so crucial to have good relationships with all community providers. Even if you don't have the same focus or philosophy, ultimately at the end of the day, working together to support all the people in the community is so important. Like, a healthy community will have better outcomes long term, whether that is kids in school, people accessing jobs, just in general being successful. And I don't mean like monetarily successful, I just mean being happy, having connections.
And being healthy, which is huge. So the community can help you. I know there's always a way to help. How can the community help your organization?
How can the community help us? Honestly, I think this right here, like coming out and talking about Children's Friend and spreading the word that like we're here. If you need support, you can walk right into our office on 110 Boston Street and you can ask for a referral. You can ask to speak to one of our program managers to see what we offer and how we can support you and your family. And if you can't get to us, then you can always give us a call. We're pretty readily available. I might not be able to answer within the hour or 6 hours, but like I will always respond to somebody reaching out. And so I think spreading the word that we're here.
And not only that, you're in Salem, but you service how many different areas?
We have a relatively large catchment area. So Salem itself, we cover Salem, Peabody, Danvers, Beverly, Marblehead, parts of Swampscott, right over the line in Lynn, right over the line of Topsfield, right over the line of Middleton, parts of Hamilton and Wenham.
Wow.
And so it's pretty large.
Yep.
But that is also the benefit of having more than just the Salem site. We've got our Gloucester location, which services Cape Ann and also comes into Ipswich and the other parts of Hamilton and Wenham that we're not in. We've got our Lynn site, and Lynn is very large, and they have one additional service that we don't have, which is called the Community Service Agency, which is like wraparound services when families have lots of things going on and they're kind of like, I don't know how to prioritize what I'm doing. That's what an intensive care coordinator does. They help to streamline that process and organize what's happening, and then teaching that parent that skill. And then in addition to that, there's a family partner, and that family partner has lived experience. And for all the time that I've been in the field, I can honestly say having family partners and watching parents feel heard and validated and understood is such a crucial piece to like feeling more grounded and then being able to access those skills.
Right. Because when you're a parent that's in this crisis, all you're worried about is the safety of your child.
Right.
And, you know, and then all the emotions of having to back that child up. How do you support that child? How do you make sure that child is safe? So the trauma piece for the parent is there as well, and it's just as strong as the child. And being a great advocate, and I think your organization does a great job at making sure the parents are educated and that they're the best advocate for their child.
Absolutely.
And for themselves. And I think that's huge because there's not a lot of organizations that work with the parents.
And that's, you know, historically, I've always been an in-home therapy clinician, and that's part of the reason that I have loved this particular program and I'm so passionate about it, is that I've seen how effective it is. And that's not to say that outpatient therapy isn't effective, but it's different. It's not as much time, and you're working one-to-one with someone. Working in a family modality and teaching everybody those skills and then being consistent with that, there's a much larger chance of success because you're not just saying it to one person, right? And providing that psychoeducation to parents around like, this is why your kiddo is doing this, and like it's really hard, but try not to take it personal in this moment. Like you were saying, when there's crisis, you're in it. Right? It's really hard to zoom out and kind of see the bigger picture because you want to focus on what's happening in that moment. And that's part of our role, is that we try to help you get through that moment and then take a step back to kind of look at long term, how do we implement skills so that everybody is able to help each other in a moment.
That's great. That's huge. And I know a lot of families wouldn't be where they are today without your services. So I thank you for that.
Thank you.
And I also think it's really important, like we said, because it is Suicide Prevention Month and Awareness Month, that, you know, you really, if you could just let our viewers know, if they're in crisis in this area, who should they go to?
Yeah, if you are in crisis, I would always tell families that the Elliott CBHC, which is located right on Sylvan Street, not too far from here, they house the mobile crisis unit. So you can call their number and ask to make an appointment and go into their office. You can see if they can do outreach to your home to see if they can come see you. And if they're not available and you feel like there is imminent risk, then I would always recommend calling 911 or going to your local hospital and walking in and saying, we're having a psychiatric emergency, like we need help, please.
Absolutely. And that you don't have to go it alone. There are so many people to help you.
Absolutely.
Which I think is wonderful. Could you give our viewers your website so they can have that information?
Sure. So because we are part of the larger Justice Resource Institute, if you went to www.jri.org and you go in the search bar and you do Children's Friend and Family Services, all of our different sites up here on the North Shore will pop up. You could also literally just Google Children's Friend and Family Services, and that same like website, because it's a very long URL, will pop up, and you can look at all the different programs that we offer. You can see who the different area directors are and who you should reach out to. We have a referral on there that you can fill out. Something that JRI does that I really love is they have what's called a navigator. So there's a designated person who, when you click on the navigator, navigator button or you reach out to the navigator and you share what you need, she then readily identifies, based on where you live, what location is best suited for you and will provide you a referral, and then we'll connect that person with whoever the director is. So I often get emails from her saying like, can you please speak to this person about this service or about this service? And so that's really nice because it's a bigger catchment by having this option on our website.
That's wonderful. That is wonderful. I would like to thank you for coming on today, and your space is gorgeous.
Thank you.
And the staff that you have is highly qualified, highly trained, and what a wonderful asset we have here on the North Shore.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, and it's really nice to be able to share more about our agency and our programs. And, you know, if anybody needs help, please don't feel like you have no one to reach out to.
Right, you're not
reach
alone.
out to us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, join us next time, Danvers, as we meet with more community leaders and learn about things that we can do to help each other as we navigate through different situations in our lives and in our community. Until next time, Danvers, I'm Gayla Bartlett. Have a great day.